Have you ever faced the burden of forgetfulness, a time where your brain just gives up on you? Like you're trying to think of something, but it's not there. And we constantly torture our brains to give us the information when the brain has nothing to do with it. When the brain doesn't know something, it just doesn't know. This is a common issue in all mankind, but it doesn't mean that humans are dumb. It's just forgetfulness. Fortunately, there are ways to correct such an issue through effective actions and reasoning. Hello guys, my name is Emanuel, and today I'll be presenting to you the topic of memorizing your memory. One thing for sure is that we, as regular people, must find ways to document our memories in order to remember them. The brain can only handle so much, and memorizing is a huge part of it. The power of the brain can allow remembrance of up to 10 years back, while at the same time, it can lose a 10-second-old memory. This is called short-term memory. This is when the brain gathers information for a short period of time, and then it decides that such memory is not needed, so it dumps it. But what if you speak to your brain and let it know that I need that information? We always forget things because we don't communicate with our brains and tell it that we need that information. We never tell our brain that, oh, I'm just going to leave my phone here, which you know you forget in 40 seconds. Or we never tell our brains that her name is Jackie. Jackie and Jack goes together, I'll remember that. We just hear it and we ignore it. And because we don't do a one-on-one conversation with our brain, we end up forgetting. One great way to document our memory is to write them down, or even record them on a smartphone. Following this technique allows more flexibility, for more information to come in. The brain will never remember certain things unless you are diagnosed with highly superior autobiographical memory, which Bob the Trailer has. With this ability, you get to remember large amount of information in vivid detail, but we don't have that. So writing new information some 2 or 3 minutes after reading or hearing it will allow clear memory and therefore a clear remembrance. So yes, if you don't have access to a pen or paper, record yourself in a short summary and listen to your recording later. It saves your brain some hassle. There are times where we get to meet new people who tell us their names and we think we remember them, but all of a sudden we change activities and boom, we have forgotten. Why is it that names are the hardest to remember? So strange. We usually don't allow our brain to have access to our lives. We ignore our mind as it tries to connect things for us. And because we ignore it, it ignores us as well, in terms of helping us remember our past events. A great tip is that as soon as you get the information, immediately picture it and not think of it. The words you hear can be used to create an image. This way, when you sit down some 3 days or so, you're simply seeing the visuals and not the text. Many people have moved away from reading books into seeing images, so visualization can help enhance one's memory. It will take time, of course, to master visualization, so one must do it regularly in order to perfect it. Repetition is another great technique that forces our brain to remember. Of course, as students, we are presented with plenty of information, many which interfere with our daily memories. But fortunately, the brain has the potential to hold up to 1 million gigabytes of information. Every day we fill up with up to 34 gigabytes. So yes, the brain doesn't overload. You just have to memorize things and continually repeat after them in order to maintain memorization. Unless you have a concussion. Everyone has different ways of remembering, especially doctors, nurses, engineers, and law students who are presented with heavy amount of information every day. The key is to repeat and repeat until the knowledge sticks like glue, which it will. You just have to repeat constantly. But it's crucial to know that reading off your notes will not help you remember much, because reading is different from visualizing, which is why one must learn to study, often without reading off their notes, like heavily reading off their notes. The brain should be taught to know flashbacks, where you just sit back and you remember what you wrote down. This is beneficial at times because the state exam or even the national exam will not allow cheat sheets. The best way to be a smart student is to have better studying habits. Pick the most important yet difficult set of notes and stick to them until they become easy. And of course, memorization will differ from person to person because we all have different circumstances. There are different factors that affect memorization. Some of them can include sleep. If you're not having enough sleep, you will not memorize as much. Tiredness will play a role in this. If you are stressed out with assignments and you have all these tasks, you have to do activities, you'll be a forgetful person. But also age plays a factor in it because the older you are, the more you actually tend to forget things. It's something we cannot control. And there are hundreds of ways to enhance your memorization. These are just a few. Usually in subjects like biology and chemistry, or even astronomy, which has long sets of information, one can use a technique of making up their own words to memorize easier. Just simply taking big bunch of information and compressing them, just enough for you to remember and allow clarity. One can even use the technique of taking pauses between sentences when reading to allow the information to sink in. Memorization can differ from person to person because we all have our differences. Some speak multiple languages which they use to their advantage, while some have high IQs, and others are just regular people like myself. But that does not mean we cannot learn to enhance our abilities, to memorize our memories, and improve our capabilities. Emanuel leaving you with the word of wisdom. Your instincts may tell you that you cannot do it, but your brain will go beyond your expectations. You just have to give it access. May we all learn to use our brains for our advantage, because if we don't use it, we lose it.